Welcome back, sailors, to the shores of Aeternum. Today's going to be a little bit of a different day because we've got a lot of secondary news information for New World that we want to cover. Nothing that's really super important, it's just a lot of like random stuff that they've been doing. We've got the beta coming up, so they're starting to ramp up on marketing. Showcases like the Touring Aeternum with the Morningdale, Reekwater, Shattered Mountain, Windsward, Eden Grove, and then they stopped there, but they also did this like New World armor fashion show. They just did a pretty random video today on Twitter kind of showcasing off some of the territories and doing one of those story-based scenarios again where like if you want to settle down or get married, they wanted us to pick which would be the best region for that to happen in, which of course between these choices Everfall is probably going to be the one. And they've also been releasing some of these Instagram stories where they've been kind of showcasing different aspects of the island along with the character known as Survivalist Lee. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, but also the main point that I wanted to bring up is they recently did an MMORPG article where they kind of went into some of the lore and magical aspects of the island, and it's brought up a couple new interesting things. We kind of knew this stuff already, but it kind of puts a little bit of an interesting twist on it, so we're going to talk a little bit about that too. But first, here's a word from our sponsor. NordVPN is a virtual private network program that routes all user internet traffic through a remote server run by the service. This allows you to hide your IP and browse the web and access content from different locations securely and with peace of mind. Maybe there's a game or TV show that's not available in your country? Well, that's where NordVPN comes in at an affordable price and allows you to break down those barriers so you can get the most out of whatever experience you're seeking. With next generation encryption and over 5,200 servers in 59 countries, this is absolutely a product you need to get your hands on. If you're interested, then be sure to visit nordvpn.com/medieval or use the coupon code medieval to get a 2-year plan plus a bonus gift with a huge discount. Special thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring this video, and I know when it comes to Aeternum, we might have a giant storm wall blocking our connection to the outside, but with NordVPN, anything's possible. Now back to the video. Alrighty, so you probably noticed we're going to kind of freeball things a little bit today, no script or anything like that. We're just going to have a discussion about all the stuff that's been going on the sidelines for New World. So starting off with the Touring Aeternum videos, we got about 5 videos showcasing different zones around the island. Now most of these are just cinematic showcases. It starts off with Windsward, really love this zone. It's a hotbed for ancient guardians, also known as the skeletons. You'll find a lot of these guys surrounding places like Amrine Temple, along with our very own mascot Barkimedes, who stands guard at the Amrine excavation, which is one of the expeditions we'll be delving into. Windsward is also filled with farmsteads that'll be really good for cooks, also has a lot of wildlife and hemp for those of you that are planning on going with tailoring. As a matter of fact, Windsward is also famous for having what's known as Bison Island, which is on the western side of Windsward that has a lot of hemp plants, as well as bison for you to hunt down for a lot of raw meat. Also has other locations in these videos like Reekwater, which is home to the undead pirates, most notably the followers of the Siren Queen, which is one of the main villains of the Aeternum Island. Kinda reminds me of Weaver's Fen, but I find that Reekwater does have its specific portions of real beauty in it, like this fungal grotto, which is one of my favorite places to go, and I'm really excited to jump back into it publicly when the game goes into beta. Then we have both Morningdale and Eden Grove, 2 of my favorite locations hands down in this entire game. And of course we don't just have 5 zones, we have more than this, but these are the ones that they showcased. But I absolutely love Morningdale. I recommend buying a house there if you're able to, if not for the location and how it's useful to have a house right next to Eden Grove. The different locations alone and their sheer beauty is enough to really elevate this zone, on top of the fact that it's always raining in the northern parts, which is one of my favorite things about this zone. Rain is just so beautiful to me and it's so peaceful. A lot of times during my gameplay, I'll probably just go over to Morningdale and sit over there and chill, like next to a waterfall or something. They also showcased the location as New Balefire, which is one of the locations we used to farm at in the preview, specifically the tower that was located inside it known as Scorpius Tower. But I think now farming it isn't going to be as useful because mob farming got nerfed kind of hard, and I'm really hoping that it makes a comeback, to be honest, because I love mob farming. And Eden Grove is a pretty quick one to go through as well. Of course, we have the Angry Earth that are based here. A lot of secrets about the Blight, which I closely relate to the Corruption, and this place is home to Malevolence Tower, one of the in-game places you'll be farming at, along with the mini boss that guards the bridge known as Banes, one of my favorite field bosses to fight. And it's also home to the expedition known as Garden of Genesis, along with a lot of different beautiful landscapes to take in. And the last one they did was for Shattered Mountain. This is where you'll also find Murkgard, one of the in-game farming zones that you'll find in New World. There's going to be a lot of max level corruption portals here that are going to be really difficult to take down. This is going to be one of those areas you're going to need a group to survive no matter what, especially if you're going to try to farm Murkgard. Especially now, these are not the kind of things you'll be able to solo. In a couple parts here during these videos, we did see some new armor sets. This one specifically, right here, That's mine. I gotta get that one. Don't care what it takes, but that one looks absolutely badass. I need to have it 110%. This one might actually be the Ebon Rock armor I was talking about a while ago. I can't fully remember, but either way, we need to find out how to get this one. Highly recommend checking out these touring Aeternum videos, and I'll leave a link in the description below. They give a better look at the zones of Aeternum, and these are really well designed places. Then we've got ourselves a video where they did like an armor showcase. They called it New World Fashion Show. It was posted on their official YouTube, and this was basically just a runway segment of the different armor sets that will be coming across in New World. Some of the newer ones they've been adding, to be exact, like we got this Plague Doctor looking outfit right here that looks kind of regal but militaristic or barbaric at the same time. Then we've got one that looks like it definitely comes from Angry Earth related content. This one right here reminds me of one of the villains of Hellboy, the old version to be exact. Next, we got another one with the purple color scheme. I think they're starting to go more on the fantasy side too with the armor designs. I've noticed a couple different ones, and I think the historic ones they might be saving for later, because as we talked about before, they got a wide canvas to pull from when it comes to those. Last one is this golden spiky armor, and it kind of made me chuckle a bit because I saw someone make a joke about Lord Farquaad from Shrek, and it's just too perfect. Like every time I see this armor now, that's all I'm gonna think about. Next, we have a couple random ones. They've been doing some Instagram stories over the past couple of weeks with the character known as Survivalist Lee, where he basically goes around Aeternum doing selfies and stuff like that with the environment and kind of teaching you a little bit about life on the island. He also does make a visit to our famous mascot known as Barkamedes, which I absolutely love, and this might be worth checking out if you're interested in looking at a couple minor showcases about the island. And another quick one is they've started this new series called Legends of New World that's starting to give a brief introduction on the lore of the game. And the last thing before we go into the MMORPG interview is they gave us a random video today called Settling Down that kind of gives us a few showcases of the houses around the island. It tells a story of two newlyweds that are looking to settle down and raise a family. Not the best thing you want to be thinking about in New World right now, but either way, they're determined. First house is located in Everfall, probably the best choice, and it's actually going to be a place where I think a lot of people are going to be buying their houses at one point in time. Don't forget that you can have up to 3 total by the time you reach max level too. Second place is Weaver's Fen, pretty simplistic design, but it does have an eerie feel to it. And third place is Reekwater, one of my favorite house locations because you get an entire view of the settlement, plus you get 2 stories to make use of. Then the MMORPG article was done where they interviewed some Amazon Game Studios members, and there were some very interesting questions in this article. Like, just for example, there was a portion in here where MMORPG said that during some combat scenarios, certain skills have an audio cue and even runes connected to them, and they wanted to know if this was related to the lore. Well, they did talk about their audio system and how they've been developing some really awesome strategies for integrating with the lore, and they even go so far as to say as some of these enemy groups, like I'm assuming Angry Earth, will have their own language, which that does make sense, but then they say that if someone devoted enough time to studying them, they might very well decrypt them and expose some of these groups' hidden secrets. Well, first of all, challenge accepted, but something so complex being embedded in the actual audio cues is something that I normally don't expect from MMOs, and I kind of have to see to believe, to be honest with you, because that's insane if that's the case. And of course they talk about the various civilizations and cultures that the world has brought to the island, and how we'll probably see more of those in the future, but also how they're already looking at folklore and mythologies to pull from, which we already kind of knew they were doing for Greek mythology, but this might mean that we might see like world boss level creatures pulled from this stuff in the future. But the biggest thing about this interview is when they talked about the location and how it might have dynamically changed over time in New World. Now, we've known for a while that the island is supposed to be located somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean, but right here is kind of hinting at that Aeternum may have moved around at some points in time to collect these different civilizations from different parts around the world. Now, we know the Bermuda Triangle is located inside the Atlantic as well, but a day after that interview, I saw some comments from people that were reacting to this interview. One of them wondered about if the island can move around, what if it can also move through time? Now, I think this is genius because I remember a quote that Scott Lane had said that has plagued my mind for so long about New World being described as a time-shifting MMO. For a little while now, I've had what's called a black hole theory for New World, and I've been researching the way that they actually work. I've looked at info videos from people like Neil deGrasse Tyson because I wanted to understand the mechanics behind a black hole and see if there was any relation to how the island of Aeternum operates. Well, a couple days ago, I was also looking at videos related to the Bermuda Triangle, and I remember this real-life story about this pilot that had given his account about what it was like to fly over the Bermuda Triangle in the Atlantic. And he estimated the amount of time it should take for him to get from point A, which is where he started at, to point B, where somewhere along the line he flies over the Bermuda Triangle. Well, the crazy thing is, he says that when he was flying through the Bermuda Triangle, through these mysterious clouds that had popped up, he somehow jumps forward in time and arrives at his destination much sooner than he was supposed to. So how does this relate to New World? Well, it's kind of crazy, but I think there might be one of two things going on. The first thing is that Aeternum potentially could exist across all planes of time, and the moment somebody enters into it, like let's say you enter it from a 1600s or the 1700s, you enter a dimension or space and time all on its own. And let's say that in this universe, the 1700s are at the end of the road, so it's not like we're going to get people from the early 2000s coming to this area. Or it could also be that the island of New World is one dimension all on its own and it travels through time randomly. Or it could also be that the island does move around randomly, but time passes normally around it. Really crazy ideas, and I highly recommend you guys check this stuff out when you get a chance. I'll leave some links in the description below, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll catch you next time.